Hello and welcome to My Fusion Helper. This video is going to cover the date calc helper, and this is probably one of the more sophisticated helpers in the system, and so there's going to be a lot of information that we're going to cover here in this video, and it may go a little longer than most of the videos. So the live demo is the first thing we're going to cover, and we're going to walk through various types and ways of using this date calc helper because there are lots of options, and so we're going to go through it in detail, and let's just dive in. Okay, so like everything else, we start out first by selecting it. So we'll just type in date and it'll go right to the date calc and give it a name. So we'll do date calc example. All right. And then let's kind of scroll down here, and what I really encourage you to do when using the date calc is to read the text here. The development team has done a great job of giving you lots of information in here that will assist you in this process. So there's a lot of options here, and you'll see as we open them up that there tends to be a lot more options, and so this is one that you need to spend a little time getting used to. It's extremely powerful and can do just about anything you can imagine with calculations of dates. So the first thing, let's just walk through the selection here. So you have the ability to calculate between a field and now, between two fields, between a field and a selected date. Now a selected date is a hard-coded date. So rather than two fields, if we want to select between a field and then just a fixed event date, for example, we can do that. And then we also have addition and subtraction math that you can do on dates as well. Okay, so let's just jump in and take a look at the first one. Now, the first one is between a field and now. So now means the current time, right? And so it's going to base this in the date calculation. So we're looking at a start date, and then we don't have to specify an end date because remember, it's between now. So the end date is already specified as now, and that's what it's calculating between. And then we have a save field, and then we have a secondary save field. Now, why the secondary one? Well, the secondary one is that perhaps you want to have a more human-friendly way of, storing your dates in the emails. So we give you this secondary date formatted approach. So this is going to be just a simple numeric, and this is going to be a nice formatted date. And this is your selection field. So remember, it's this field and comparing it to now. Now, in the second option is between two different fields altogether. So we can scroll up here so we can see this a little better. Okay, and we select a start and end date. So again, these are two separate fields, okay? And I'm not going to go through all the selection because we got a lot to walk through here, but it's just a similar thing like you would do with anything else, and you just type the name. So if you want to select off their anniversary date, by the way, I use the anniversary date as just relabel that in Infusionsoft all the time for maybe a date of first transaction or a membership start date or something like that that's more relevant to your business rather than a personal anniversary date, which is generally not that relevant for business. So you can relabel these to use them how they make sense to you in Infusionsoft. It's one of the admin options. All right, so we can do a couple of dates between that and we'll just do a test date here that we have and calculate between those two, and then we save it into a third field, okay? So this is calculating the number of days between two dates and saving it into a third, and then once again you have the secondary field option that you can do for the textual version of that date. All right, so those are those options. Now the next one here is very similar. It's a start date and an end date, but we can hand code that date. Instead of it being a field-driven date, it can be just one that we pick off of a calendar. So this is very useful if you're doing events, if you're doing a seminar that's upcoming and you want to be able to, calculate the number of days and put it in a custom field so that when you merge in your emails, you can say, hey, everybody, just 17 more days to go, that type of stuff, then this is very good for that when you have a fixed date in your comparison. Everything else works the same as between two fields. And then the last option that we can do is calculational. Now this one is very powerful and there's lots of options here. So, just take your time, go through it and read carefully all of the instructions because it will really walk you through everything. So we start off with the start field. Now notice that you can use now, but then look at some other very useful information here. You can start based on when a specific tag was added here, and it'll allow you to select the tag. Or you can start based on an order date and say, the first order. Or you could, go off of specific fields and custom fields in the contact record. So there's lots of different options with this start field. And then the date calculation formula allows you to do all kinds of different things here. And notice it's just a textual formula. So if you wanted to add 2 months to now, for example, then you could select now and do plus 2 months. So follow the text here, and this is extremely powerful. You can do any type of date math that you need to do, and then you can save it to a primary field, a secondary field, and then there's different formatting options as well, again, so that you can vary how that date is formatted in that secondary field. Okay, so this is a very powerful helper. You can see there's lots of options, and it'll take a little bit of experimentation with you just because of how powerful it is and all of the options to configure. But you can see that this can be used in a variety of situations for your campaigns. We use this a lot in the GoToWebinar campaigns where we're calculating date things and storing and taking specific action based on number of days remaining and that kind of stuff. We use a lot of date calculation fields. This is probably one of the most powerful and one of the most frequently used helpers in the system. So we went through all of these, but now once you've got them all set up, then you simply save it like anything else and paste it in. So we'll just do something here to give a quick example. And we won't save the secondary. And so at this point, it's just like anything else. You create the helper, and that's going to give you a copy link that you copy and paste into Infusionsoft in the HTTP post snippet. So we'll just copy that link. And then we're going to come into Infusionsoft, and if we had a date calc sequence here, we would scroll down in the process and grab an HTTP post. Come in here, again, rename it so that it's useful. I usually use this type of a name so that it's easy to know what it's calling and what it's doing. And then I post it in here. So we paste that in, and then we set it to ready, and that's it. Okay, so now if we take a look at just talk through some different scenarios. Calculating the number of days since some event and now is very, very useful. This event, as we said, could be the date that a tag was applied. It could be virtually anything, but being able to get the number of days between that is very powerful. This could be used for logic for seminars and webinars that are upcoming or anything like that where you need to know the number of days in between events. Okay, very, very powerful. It can be something like when somebody joins up one of your programs and they start and you apply a tag that they start, or you apply a tag when they last logged in and you send them a message when that date has been more than 10 days, and we say and send them a hey, we missed you email, have seen you haven't logged into the system in the last 10 days and wanted to make sure you're still progressing along on your coaching program, or whatever the event happens to be. But this is very, very powerful. Another thing that you can do is using it for things like refund logic, where you're basing that upon the number of days since purchase. So we have a client, for example, that has a refund program that is permissible within 30 days of purchase, but after 30 days, it's no longer refundable. And so we can put logic in there. We can calculate the date of last purchase, how many days it's been since, and then we can do a decision diamond. If it's greater than 30, go to this, approach, and if it's less than 30, handle it this way, right? Or less than or equal to 30. Make sure not to miss the exact 30 there, right? But these are very, very powerful ways of doing logic and business logic for processing refunds. A third scenario is something that, again, is very, very powerful, and this is creating dynamic sequences based upon how many days until the upcoming event. So let's just say that you're doing a seminar and it's coming up in 60 days, and you've booked the event and you've got people coming in, and so you're sending them into a sequence that you're marketing to them based on what's coming up at the event. Now, as the date draws nearer, you're probably going to want to change your sequence up. And so you could calculate the number of days before the event, and then you could branch that off into maybe 3 different marketing sequences, depending on how much time there is before the event. So somebody that books 60 days out might get a series of emails, and then somebody that books a week out, you still have certain things that you want to make sure they get, but you're not going to be able to send all the same emails. And so a traditional logic where you would just use a field timer is really kind of flawed, because what's going to happen is they're going to skip over a lot of the information, and there may be very crucial information you need to give them. So what this allows you to do is to, based upon how many days before the event, break that up into 3 different sequences. Have a long, a medium, and a short booking sequence, so that you can give them the key vital data depending on how much time you have to market to them prior to the event. Okay, so this is just some examples. Obviously, there's lots more that you could come up with, and as you saw, the Date Calc Helper has tons of features for you to use in your business and campaigns. Thank you.